Howdy, sports fans. How we doing? John Nelson, the plugin CEO of JKL Works, pluginbusiness.com, and a whole host of other projects that completely consume my time, but that's a good problem to have. So I appreciate that. I'd rather have it than not that way. Anyway, lots going on, and dirty little secret, I hate to tell you, is sometimes we actually do this pre-recorded. My problem is this, is I didn't pay attention to the audio. So I'm going to double check this just to make sure, because I have been in trouble. Okay, yeah, we're good. Everything was muted. Everything was set wrongly this morning. So it was a great intro, and you saw me doing this the rest of the time. So the trade-off is I get to actually do this really live. I do things live a lot, as most of you know, because I am my own producer. However, this is we're going to do this one particularly live, and so this is going to be good. This has been part of a conversation that I've had with various people, over time here recently, from marketing agency owners to to the people doing ads for me. So I mean, this is part of the basis of those conversations. And I have always, yes, somebody's doing ads, but I've always been of the opinion there is a time and a place for ads, and it's not always right away. Sorry, marketing agencies, but that's the truth. And I hope to prove that somewhat to you today. There is eventually a time and a place for them where they can do a lot more good. But if you haven't done some pre-prep first, you're going to run into problems. You're going to run into issues. You're not going to get your money's worth out of it. And you're really going to have some things go wrong. So that's what we want to talk about today: how to do loads of profit without advertising. Well, that's not entirely true. We'll get to advertising, but there's a lot of groundwork that if you lay it properly, you actually get the absolute most effective performance out of ads wherever you're going, because you have all this in place. You know what to say. Believe me, there's problems when you don't have that all lined out. So that's what I want to go through today. So we're going to talk about just some pretty basic things. We're going to talk about your foundations that you should have in place for ads to even work. Then we're going to talk about your messaging. This is the substance of anything that you do, let alone advertising. You should have this all. You'll see what I mean, but you should really have this all in place before that even kicks in. And the final one we're going to cover is the ads themselves. We're going to cover, if you've got everything in place, how you can create then, when the time is right, effective advertising that really accomplishes what it is you're trying to accomplish. Because there are some certain questions that should get asked. And if they don't, it can be a little problematic. Okay. So that's what we're doing. Let's start with your foundation. How is your foundation? And what do we mean by that? Well, much of this will seem familiar. Much of this will be familiar. If you're a digital marketer, it's very familiar. But if you're not, if you're, a small business trying to make it, these are things you should have in place. Or if you work with us, we will work to get them in place for you. Most of these are marketing strategies or just philosophies anyway. Let's start with the first one, and that is, how are your referrals? Do you have referrals? Are you using referrals? I talk about them almost every session for a reason. They work. Everything is built off of referral. There are whole business aspects that are built off referrals, and I'm about to prove that to you in just a second, in case you weren't already aware. It'll sound familiar. Much of these, like I said, you've heard before, but referral is somebody bringing someone else that to you, someone that they want to leave a good impression with, and that person is accepting you their solution to the problem, because their friend has been so good to them so far, and they've had such good luck. So they come put their hand in yours and say, please take care of this person, and they're 75 to 92% likely to do so. So there's just no reason not to make referrals a part of what you do. Now, per one of the conversations I was having with a market agency owner, not all of us get that done like we preach, if we're being very honest with ourselves. Referrals are here and they're there for the taking. And there's some other aspects you'll see in a little bit that if everybody's being honest with themselves, they don't do as well as they should. They know they need to, they just don't for whatever reason. Life gets in the way usually. Okay, so how do we prove referrals work? The concept of collaborations, joint ventures, all of that here. Okay, so for those who aren't familiar, I mean, I know you know what a joint venture is, or what you think a joint venture is in business. But really, this is just two companies finding a way to work together in a mutually beneficial way, in a way that benefits each other. So you think about the buying chain of a given customer. They start with one company that meets a need that they have. Well, then another one comes along, or another need comes along, and then they start looking for a company. Well, it just so happens that first company has folks that pass you right along. They can pass you right along to, they know will take good care of you, and so they then do that, and the company that's the recipient of it, the referred company, then pays the first company for doing that in the first place, right? They pay a little something maybe, because you should have a paid referral strategy if at all possible. That's where you'll get the absolute most buy-in, because you have the absolute most incentive, right? So then yet a third need comes along that just daisy chains right along, right? So then you're the middle company here, who just got the lead, got the customer, and got almost a guaranteed, not 100%, but pretty close enough, chance of the sale. And so you work that through, and then you happen to know another service to meet another need that they have. So you pass them right along to that company, and that company pays you for sending them their way. So you see how that chain continues. It's kind of like the whole pay it forward thing. You keep paying for everybody's coffee in line, right? And see how long it goes. Well, this is incentivized to do that. So everybody is doing something, making a little money off of this, getting a guaranteed connection, and most importantly, the customer is just getting good solution after good solution after good solution after good solution. So it seems like it would be like this whole cabal type of thing, but it's really not. It's good customer service, which we'll get to in its importance here in just a little bit. All right, the next one we start talking about fundamentals is your reputation. How is your reputation? Are you getting good reviews? Are they current reviews? Are they newer than 3 months old? Preferably 6 months, absolute worst case, but let's say newer than 3 months old. Are you really seeking them out? I will tell you that since I started this in 2018, I have become tried desperately to become a better steward of reviews, giving reviews and asking for reviews, because it really can make or break several things. It can make or break your position in search engines as they start looking at legitimacy scores and all that. And we all do this when you go looking for a product or service. What's the thing you do that's second only to the listing of companies? You look at their reviews. Yes, you do. So, I mean, they're so important to have. And yes, you get the people who say, oh, why do that? They're just going to give me a bunch of bad reviews, or my competition's going to get on there and do that. Well, there's some controls in place to make sure that doesn't happen, and they're surprisingly easy. All you have to do is generally be responsive to those, and you'll be floored at how that works. So we'll talk about that in just a second. All right, then the next one here is from whom. How do you serve customers? How are you serving them? How are you? What value are you providing them on a regular basis? How are you keeping up with them and making sure that they're engaged and making sure they have everything they need from you, and and that they're served well during that process, and that you make them a part of the family. You give them some incentive to do that. How well are you doing that? That is it's, I don't know, it's both easy and both hard, and hard to do. To do it well takes some effort. But if it's something that you make a priority, it's not that much effort. Does that make sense? It's really both. If it's not a priority of yours, then it will be a mighty struggle to do well. And your customers will see the difference, and they will know the difference, and it won't be good. And then it doesn't matter, if none of this is in order, if you're not getting so far, I mean, if you're not getting these things done, it doesn't matter what you run for ads. Okay. So this is to my point about reputation management. Are you missing customers? Okay, you were serving customers. Are we missing customers? Are we missing opportunities? So if somebody leaves a review and you don't respond to it, that's an opportunity lost for two reasons. One, you don't address their issue, and so that just pisses them off more, frankly. And then two, if you don't address their issue, then it tends to spiral in a direction. You lose control of that narrative, and that will reflect badly on you because people will see that. So sometimes they'll see a bad review, but it's important to do is respond to it and acknowledge it and respond quickly and leave the ball in their court. This is something we teach in reputation management all the time, do we not, marketers? Because it's important and it works. And then all of a sudden that bad review, that huge issue, isn't such a huge issue when they're confronted with it and confronted with a solution and the ball's in their court to do something about it. Suddenly it wasn't as big a problem, was it? Funny how that works, So, and people get to see that. They get to see how responsive you were. And that's important. So that's why it's hugely important. But on missing customers, there's dozens of ways. You don't answer the phone, you don't respond to reviews, you don't acknowledge them, you don't treat them very well. There's a dozen ways to miss customers and to treat them badly, and they remember and they tell their friends and they tell their colleagues and they refer other business other directions because they don't want them to have the same experience because it's their reputation on the line too. So even simple things of missing customers, if you're weak at it, find a way or talk to us to see how to combat that, where you then don't miss the customers. They get addressed even though you're not on duty 24/7. There's some ways around that, that we can steer them, the ones that you need to talk to, the legitimate ones that aren't just, pinging you to offer you something. Then you can, not miss those opportunities, right? Okay, moving right along. We have communications and reactivation. Okay, communications is just good communication in general. You've got the customers, now keep them connected on a regular basis. Talk to them, let them know what's going on. Reach out to them, see if they have any questions or needs or concerns or different things we can do. And most of you marketers then are familiar with reactivation, of course, and that is reaching out with an offer to get people back in the fold, be it old customers, customers that have been around a while, customers who may have left mad, you give them another opportunity, or prospects that for whatever reason didn't buy. And so reach out to all of them with a great opportunity. There are entire strategies that rely on one reactivation a month, and it's like a cash machine. Just keep going back and going back and going back and going back. And the people, as they respond, then they start coming back. It works really well because, you're offering them an incentive to try again for no matter how they left you the last time. So you look at these statements as a whole, and these are the foundational elements that you should be doing these anyway as a matter of good business practice. If you're struggling with them, then let's get a success blueprint on you and let's get you started, because these are fundamental places we can start. And there are not, as soon as we turn this on, one of these on, it's not going to immediately, start sending you customers, but it will pretty quickly. And if done well, these are collectively done well. It's hard to quantify, but if these are collectively done well, you'll find yourself with a whole lot more profit just starting out before you even get to before you even get to some of the higher end strategies. You find yourself with a bunch of money that you didn't know you had, a bunch of profit that suddenly come in because you're serving your customers well. They're referring people, business is growing, things are happening. You're addressing customer needs. You're not missing any opportunities that call you in. So see, all this works together. You're creating new ones with the reactivations and just communication in general, keeping in touch with your people. So all these things add up. There's a just did a business plan recently for something, and it talked about one of the sections in a table was talking about intangible costs or intangible profits. There's intangible costs too, but intangible profits you don't really know. You can't put your finger directly on where it came from, but you have a pretty good idea. And a lot of these fall into that category, that if you're doing these well, good things start happening. Profits start appearing. Customers are very happy. They start getting served. They start bringing their friends. Your community grows. Whatever success looks like to you, if you're doing these foundations well and taking care of that, then you can't go wrong with doing any of this, whether you run ads or not. You should be doing all of this and a little bit more right up front. Okay, so let's talk about this section because this deals with messaging. The foundations are a huge component, but this too is a very large component of your messaging. And some of this too will be familiar, right? So they're all here, but I want to go over kind of through each one of them here. So who's your target audience? Who's your ideal audience? Who's the one that you're really reaching for that really speaks to what you sell? Who would really buy it? That's really almost designed for. And I get it. You can sell anything to anyone. I don't want to do a niche. I can do all that. There's arguments to and from, and it will make you crazy trying to figure it out because in a sense they're both right. Whether you niche down or you don't niche down, in a sense they're both right, but you have to be careful with that. Okay, there still should be some sort of base audience with a profile because that matches what you want and who you want to sell to, who you want buying your product or service. Why? Because it affects your messaging. It affects how you put things together. The way a Gen Z or millennial talks is different than baby boomers. And the words, we were going through this over the weekend. It was kind of amusing. There's different phrases that say, what's the new one? Generation Alpha says that the rest of us don't have any idea what they're talking about. It requires translation, even as a Gen X group. I'm not that old, but it's still there's phrases there that are different with each generation. So such is the case with your marketing message. Such is the case with your product and service descriptions, and the way that you interact with customers and the vibe that your business has or your approaches to different things. So it's very, very good to map out at least one. You can have 2 to 4 if you really want to, if it's really that important to have different avatar characteristics. But really, you should have something lined out as to what your ideal client looks like. You don't have to niche to do this, but you then have an idea because then you can begin to tailor some of your messages. Second thing is, how about your offer? What is your compelling offer? Do you have a compelling offer? We were talking about that recently. Sound familiar? Back on, just in times past here, and a couple of times past, we've talked about it. So do you have an offer that's so good that if anything is important to ads, all the rest of the stuff is important to ads, but this is probably the most important. Okay. Do you have something that they want that's good enough to offer them that will get their attention, that is so good that they would be an idiot to pass it up? Do you have that? If you don't, then that's a problem. because you need something, even if it's a product that's very or service that's very common out there. So then you angle it to sell a little bit more of a lifestyle, and the lifestyle that it creates from them buying this thing that you have, or that you offer, because it's this just makes a world of difference, because then you're inside somebody's head. Then you've made it in such a way that it's not gonna get everybody, but those it's going to affect strongly. Okay. So it's going to say, you know what? That really does speak to me. I gotta have that because nobody else is offering it that way. I gotta do it. So a compelling offer is powerful. It's a as my as my clients will tell you, because we're working through it right now with a couple of them. It's a pain in the butt to get them, organized for that, but it's so worth doing. It's completely worth doing, and then once that's out of the way, that's like grunt work that you don't see the benefit of, and then all of a sudden you look up and things start happening because you filled that one thing in place that you didn't think was that important. That's the power of a compelling offer, because then so many other things can take shape because you have your messaging in mind. You have your ideal customer and you have your compelling offer, and then you get to start forming the messaging. So that gets us over here to this third point. How is your product or service catalog? How many different things? You don't have to be the, what is it, Uline now, or for the really old school people, the Sears catalog. But Uline is about the best example if you're here in the States. The thing is ginormous. They have on their ads somewhere how many products they represent, but it's a ton. If you see the printed version, it's unbelievable the paper costs in doing that. But they have it all there. So it does not have to be that. It may just be a couple of things. I mean, I basically offer 3 things, with a couple of variations. Doesn't have to be huge, but the idea is that it should meet people at varying price points. So you give yourself a little bit of a range. Consider this. If your services or products have a range of price, then particularly with services, not so much with products. Products kind of are what they are. But and you want to have enough markup in there to cover your costs and make some profit, right? So services, though, are a little bit different because it can be a little bit more of a sliding scale. So you can have a range that and you start with the higher end, but if that doesn't meet them for whatever reason, then have a way that you can configure it where it looks like it's a slightly different version and at a lower price, or a different way of handling it, breaking things out monthly prices or something, to make that happen. Because if you quote something at $2,000 and all of a sudden you say, well, how about $1,000? Like, wait a minute, so you were going to sell me the exact same thing for $2,000? What's going on here? So that doesn't look good. That looks like shuck and jive, right? So have the 2,000 to 1,000, have the 1,000, but just have it a little bit different setup. Maybe it's lesser of something or other. So there's some tangible value difference there. So it looks different, it acts different, similar but different. And so then you can work that out. But that gives you flexibility. Whoops, to meet customers where they are. See, I'm my own producer. Crazy things happen. But we will get to that thing about the advertising in just a minute. But I mean, crazy things can if you don't have, if you have that sliding scale, then you have flexibility in your product and service catalog, right? And you can find different ways to work with your customers to accomplish the same things without getting burned yourself. Okay. Now, okay, we move to the bottom row here, and a lot of that's going on. So so this is the next one. How do you show value to your customers? How do you show value to your customers? This goes alongside with what we were talking about. So if you have different price points, if you have different, what are some of the ways that you can add value without adding cost? Find as many of those that are relevant and germane to what you're doing, without adding cost. And the more of those you can cram into something so it looks like somebody's getting an insane amount of value, and maybe they are, but it's the concept is high perceived value. Okay, sounds obvious, right? So if somebody is they feel like they're getting an absolute lot of value but paying very little, and they're starting to wonder, how is this company making it? Well, that's a sales point that works to your favor. You know that you're actually doing quite well on that sort of profit margin, and this is something that they want. This all works together with knowing your audience and knowing what they will buy and knowing what they won't buy. You see how that all fits together? So then, this starts to be sort of a chain effect as we work our way through. Okay, then we're moving down to the bottom here. And okay, how responsive are you? This kind of goes to what we were talking about just a minute ago. How responsive are you to them, to their needs, to their wants, to their adaptations of how responsive is your products, and are your products and services? How responsive is your catalog? How much is it actually meeting their needs? And then once it meets their needs, how do you engage with them? How do you make them feel listened to? We've talked about in other lives before. This is not mine. I got this from a gentleman who has passed away now, sadly, but he was talking about this in leadership training. And he said the advice he always got was, treat everybody you come across as though they're walking around with a sign around their neck that says, make me feel important. Treat everybody like that, and you can't go wrong. Make me feel important. Okay, so that's being responsive. That will keep you customers. That will give you the benefit of the doubt sometimes when things don't work like they're supposed to with customers, and that will increase your longevity with them. And when they increase their longevity, that means they're spending more money with you. So that's important. Being responsive is one of those little things that show value. We're talking about things that show value over here. Being responsive is one of those things that shows value that's intangible. You'll never be able to measure it except in customer retention and keeping them there and where they feel listened to and wanted. And then finally here, overcome any history that you have. Okay. Is there history particularly in reputation management, right? We talked about being responsive to reputation, being responsive to reviews. Everybody's going to get the bad reviews. They just are. It's what are you going to do about them? How quickly you're going to respond? What is your history like with reviews? What's your history like with customer service? You can have the coolest products and services in the world, but if you treat your customers like crap, it doesn't matter. They won't come. By the same token, if you can really get the value going, and you have a history of providing that value, and a situation comes along that you have to raise your prices for whatever reason, your people will generally stay with you. You'll be stunned. I mean, as long as you're not gouging them, and you're probably not trying to do that. You're just trying to, deal with increased cost of goods sold, and make a living, keep the doors open. You got to eat too. So, but they'll stay with you through that if they feel valued, if they feel responded to, and if you have a consistent history of doing that. That's especially if you can, share that history or quantify that history somehow. But even if not, if you were to ask any of your customers, about the performance over time, and they don't have a bad thing to say, that's good history. So overcome any history that you have, any history issues, and they will go away with time. It always takes longer to replace bad with good, of course, but you can do it. And clearing your history like that will help with good performance and good customer service and quality products and services and a great experience working with you. Your customers will do that. So it's powerful. So all these things we talked about need to be in place. The ones here from a minute ago, the foundation, and about your messaging and how this all reflects in your messaging. These should all be there. these should all be humming along just fine. These should all be making you money for the most part, or contributing to your overall, customer positive experience, that they stay around longer, they buy more, and they refer friends. Okay? All that should come together before you ever run a single ad. All that should come together before you ever create a single ad. Okay? All of them, because there's just no other way to do it. Okay? So let's say these for a moment. These, you got these, even 75% together. You're doing good. You're not perfect. It's hard to be perfect. Hard to be humble too, as the song goes. But it's hard to be dead on perfect. But if you are, that's special. But you get as close as you can, and if you're doing all that well, then if you want to expand your reach, if you have a new product, if you have different things like that you want to try something new, or maybe a new approach, but your house is in order otherwise, then and only then is it time to advertise. Okay? So we're going to ask ourselves some of the same things. Okay, let's see if this sounds familiar. So question number 1, there's 3 questions here. Who is your audience? Okay, sound familiar? If you did your homework from the messaging before, you got this covered. No problem. No problem. So they fit what you do. They fit the image you're trying to convey. They like your products and services. It's not only that, it's a lifestyle. I mean, think about the coffee lifestyle, the coffee culture. There's a whole lifestyle that goes with that. It's not just the coffee. The coffee's not that good, but the experience is. And there's enough variation of the coffee that it will work out. But really, people go there to hang out at the coffee shop for any number of reasons. Okay, so who is your audience? What are their likes and dislikes? What are they buying, not buying? Are they bringing their friends? Are you making it possible for them to do that? All that good sort of stuff. All right, so where is your audience? Where is your audience? Where are they hanging out? Mostly online. That's where you want to run ads. And it's not always Facebook or Google. Most of the time it is, but it's not always. Sometimes it's good, even though you get a smaller audience, to get creative and show up in some other places. Maybe you do key sponsorships, local sponsorships, maybe even, radio and TV ads aren't totally dead. They're useful. What's making a huge comeback actually is direct mail, even over email. Their rate of return might be better now, because not everybody's inbox is just crap full flooded all the time now after the pandemic. Thank you for that. And there are companies that use it in creative ways. Let's say you sign on and become a customer of theirs. They're sending you something that has their branding on it, but it's useful to you. Okay. So there's things like that are happening. Maybe they're sending you an organizer. There's some really cool organizers you come across that, and they're intended as, thank you gifts, but useful thank you gifts, for some folks. So, I mean, there's a bunch of different ways you can do that, but you have to know where they are. You have to know where they're looking. You have to know where they're trying to solve problems. And then that's where you can put your message, because the problems they're trying to solve, regardless of where they hang out. And the problem they have but don't want, the solution they want but don't have. Okay. So then you can go be in that space in a regular way or creative way, and reap the benefits. They'll respond to you, because then you're giving them the messages they wanted, because you've done your homework. You've put all this together for them. So that's important. All right. And the third and final thing on running ads here is, is what will you offer your folks? So we have the who, we have the where, and we have the what will you offer them. These are the components of the ad. You're setting up your target audience, right? And there's arguments, and good ones, for setting some base parameters and then letting the audience sort of define itself, especially like on Facebook. Google, you can hyper target stuff. And so there's something to be said for that too, because adds in things like locations, where you can really target who even sees your stuff whenever they search, as opposed to just like the scrolling billboard that Facebook is or even Instagram is. But you determine that in the where your audience is as to where you want to advertise. But the most important here is, what are you going to offer them? You got your compelling offer lined up. How are you going to get their attention? How are you going to stand out once it's time to run the ad? How is it going to be something? What kind of vibe do you want? Do you want the loud attention getting thing? Do you want something more subtle? Do you want something informative? Do you want something, what's a part of what it is that you're offering to make that real and attention getting for them so they click, which is ultimately what you want. Or they call if it's say it's a local radio, TV, or print ad somewhere somehow. Or if it's direct mail, they scan a QR code or they call a phone number or whatever. Or you sponsor something, and so you have on the fence there or on a banner somewhere a QR code that they can scan if they want to be a part of what you do. That's relative. So what is that offer you're going to give them? What is that thing that's that compelling offer that's so incredibly hard to say no to? They feel like an idiot for doing so. It's so good. But at the same time, so the flip side of offers is it's got to not ruin you. You can't, that's why price war is so tough. Because certain aspects, if you get into a price war for anything longer than, say, an initial offer, people will keep letting you discount. They'll keep letting you go. And that's the only reason they buy from you, is the discount. Think about the proverbial phone shift thing for a while, cell phones. People would jump. My father-in-law used to do this all the time. It made me crazy. He'd jump from one carrier to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, as the better deal would come out. And so you're always getting the better deal, which, one, is a pain in the butt. And two, it's not unethical, but it's just not that, not that worth it to me. But I may be different. There are people that's completely worth it, and they shop it like absolute hawks. So if you can answer these questions and what they look like, then you have the basis. You have a very solid basis for creating ads, because then you know where they're going, you know who they're going to, and you know what that offer is that's going to make them say yes. And that will put your ads together like nobody's business. But until you have these questions answered, and until you have all the stuff done from the previous slides, it's not going to matter, because you're putting ads in wrong places. You're talking to wrong people. Nobody's responding to you. Maybe they'll watch what you have, but they don't do anything else because it's just not that important to them, is it? So that's what you keep in mind about ads. And don't be afraid to say, you know what? I don't have all this worked out yet. So I don't know that I need ads yet. I need to get some other things in order. And there are ways, I assure you, to make decent amounts of money. And especially with ad prices being what they are, although my friend Paul will beg to differ with the Google ad prices that he gets, that are amazing. The rest of it is expensive right now. It just is. Facebook is expensive. YouTube's really expensive. So it's just a matter, and so is LinkedIn. So it's just depends on what you're doing and where you're going with it and what kind of value you're getting, all that sort of thing. But if you can answer these, that's a great place to start with creating the ads, because then it just makes the whole process easier. And then our team or your marketing folks can help you decide which option is best for you. Okay. But speaking of helping you decide things, that's what we do. We are business and marketing optimization specialists. Yes, it's coaches. Yes, it's coming alongside you, but it's work done with you. It's not done for you. We're not going to build your website for you, but we will make sure the people we bring in do it right and do it fast and do it well. We're not going to build the ads for you. But we will help you through every piece of the process. We're not going to run the ads for you, but we'll help you through every piece of the process and then we'll make sure those ads do run properly. But we are your right hand person. We're your accountability partner. We're your confidant. We're your people that you can take. I was thinking about doing this, but I don't know if it's going to work. And if I bring it to anybody else in my company, they'll go crazy and start heading for the hills and the exits. What do you think? Give me some pros and cons here. So that's what we do. You see all these strategies listed. There's not quite 40 of them here. There's like 27, but we've got 13 more. We've got a full 40 strategies, and we keep adding new ones every day. Maybe they're under foundations. Maybe they're under more leads, more conversions, more transactions, and more profits. Maybe they fall into one of those categories, so you too can achieve that 5 gold star real business life change. That's what we talk about here an awful lot. Okay, so we can put all that together, and if that sounds like something that could help your business, or with the 1090 turnaround, your 10 worst performing clients, if you're a marketing agency, we'll talk about that on Thursdays here. But if that is something that can really help you, you see all my notifications going off. It's crazy. Then that's something we're super pleased to do. So and this is what we're all about. This is the value we bring. This is where everything is at. Okay. So let's talk about our process briefly. We start everything with we can start everything with a business breakthrough strategy session. Okay, we take about 20 minutes. We want to get to know you. We'll show you our fun little profit acceleration simulator we've had on here before, where we take all these different strategies and we put them in and we say, okay, if we just increase them by like 2 to 5%, watch this, And the fun little secret is that when you put a bunch of those impacts together, a bunch of those strategies together, the math works out in your favor in really cool ways. Just like compounding interest does, we have compounding impacts. And so we can put all that together and show you what that looks like. We can answer all of your questions. Or we can jump right to, because all these are free that I'm talking about here. They're all free to do. We can jump right to a success blueprint. This is, we pick 3 or 4 of these strategies here that will benefit you the most. And we start working through them with you, asking you questions, seeing where you land. And at the end, we give you a report. It's yours to keep. That is an absolute roadmap to, if you implemented all these, here's what is generally probably going to happen. If you implemented all these strategies and moved them forward and did them, reasonably well, here's what's going to happen. There's no way you can see what's there before. It's getting amazing value before you even start. It's making promises, yes, but it's also providing that opportunity to show you exactly what to do. Now, these are done with you processes. So they rely on you to do it, and they rely on us to guide it. Okay. So the success blueprint and the strategy session are absolutely free. Collectively, they will take 1 hour and 22 minutes of your time. Done. And not even that long, because the sessions on the blueprint's only about 50 minutes. So, okay, if we're going to be specific, 1 hour and 2 minutes of your time. Okay. So, I'm sorry, 1 hour and 12 minutes of your time. There we go. Got the math. 1 hour and 12 minutes of your time that will make that happen, all for free. What have you got to lose? Book a session with that and see what we can do for you. But then if you decide, if you like what you see and you want help with it and you don't think you can do it by yourself, this is what we do. So book let's go to the Profit Works implementation side of this. Comes in a couple different forms. Either the regular coaching is with the Profit Works. It's 1 hour a week. We are working on your business, not in your business. We are working with you. We're giving you things to do, but we're also taking things on ourselves. We do work, you do work. That's the way it happens. And we're both not applying it to sales calls, not applying it to, serving a customer, dealing with some billing issue or whatever. We're actually working on your business to make it better during that hour time frame. If you don't have an hour, if that's more than you're ready to commit to, and you like the idea, but you just don't want to move that fast, consider our ProfitWorks Jumpstart up here. This is basically it's an accountability partner. It is coaching on demand almost every 15 it's their 15-minute sessions, unlimited ones. We can get some things done there, especially when you get the hang of how it works. But we spend, you can have as many of those as you want. And if you want help with certain strategies, we'll work on strategies. If you want us to be just a sounding board for you that you can run ideas past, and we help work out the pros and the cons of them, we can do that too. You pay for it a year at a time. So as many of those 15-minute sessions as you want to pack in a year, go for it. Okay, there's no limit. Unlimited 15-minute sessions. That's the ProfitWorks Jumpstart. You have the ProfitWorks here. And the only one left is this little guy here, the Success Academy. And that comes along with both of these two. It's a huge DIY library resource. If you went through all the videos, there's 52 weeks worth of content, 1 year's worth of content, and it's virtual MBA level knowledge. Your brain will hurt coming out of this, but you also have background. So you don't have to feel like you're asking stupid questions. You can go watch the videos on how to do this. And then if you have specific questions, we get to those, but it's all there for you. And there's even some profit getting strategies and client getting strategies and things in the middle of that too. So it's all there. This first half is completely free to you. The next half depends on you, but we make you far more money than we cost you. There's even a graph we show you where it's just so much. The difference is just stark as to how much it is. Okay, so let me still make sure we're on here because I keep getting the messages, but who knows? Okay, so we're good. We're live, and I am my own producer still. But this is what we do. And so if any of this has resonated with you, if any of watch some of our other videos, watch some of the other trainings that I've put through, look at some of the other folks. We're all talking about the same stuff, but if you're ready for those next steps in your business, tailored to your business, then this is your next step here, and that is the Business Breakthrough Strategy Session. If you want to go right to the blueprint, fine. There are ways to do that, and actually what we'll close with here in just a minute will be the way to do that. You can go to blueprint.jkoworks.com there and start that blueprint directly. It's completely free. It's 50 minutes of your time, and it's an unbelievable amount of value. Now, if you have questions and you're not ready to move that fast, this too is still free. This is a great resource, Business Breakthrough Strategy Session. Let's spend that time getting to know each other. Let's spend that time seeing if we can figure all of this out and seeing if everything is in line. I mean, some of your questions could be, am I ready to run ads? And we'll talk about some of these same issues we've been talking about today. We will just customize them strictly to you. So that's what we've got. That is whether or not you need ads. There's a lot of your house that needs to get in order for that to happen. But if you're willing to do that, then ads can have an impact on what you do, for sure. But if not, you could be costing yourself a lot of time, money, and headache. And I don't want to see you do that. Get us involved. We'll help work it through. The Flash Coach, all the coaching programs are more affordable than you think, especially in these times. But the Flash Coaching especially it's an annual payment. So, but it really works out well, and you'd be helping out a small business. So let's get this started. If there's anything that you have any questions about, comment where you're watching this. Otherwise, I do thank you for watching. I hope to see you on a breakthrough call or a business blueprint very soon. And we'll talk to you then. Thanks a lot.